Alright, gonna be recording Golden Gyarados versus Charrol Astra, finals of Master Tournament 19. Should be pretty hype. I think they're gonna start in a moment and I'll discuss some background as we get into the leads. Who on earth is someone calling me right now? Oh, it's a text, I'll read that later. Alright, anyway. A bit of background then, whilst I wait for them to start. Golden Gyarados is the 7th seed and a veteran of Pokemon Perfect, been playing on here for a few years, and so it's not been around that long, only about as long as he's been around, so... Oh, he's a veteran, where's my mouse gone? Where's my mouse gone? Ah! Alright, this is normal. Alright, we're in there. Alright, Alakazam versus Alakazam lead. Charrol Astra Golden Gyarados going to Exeggutor, going for the sleep early. And he gets it straight away, which is good for him, since he's got a still fairly healthy Exeggutor. And Charrol Astra's Alakazam is sleeping, and it allows Gyarados to go to probably his Golem or something here, in order to pressure Charrol. To prevent him from staying in. Instead, he goes for a Psychic, which critical hits and gets a special drop, which is pretty exciting, and perhaps he was aiming for whatever Charrol was going to switch in. Charrol brings in Chansey, which can fire off Ice Beams, use Reflect to protect against Explosion, and Golden Gyarados reveals a Lapras, which doesn't want to be in versus Reflect Chansey at this point, getting paralyzed for very little reason. Instead, he'd rather go to his own Chansey, fire off Ice Beams and threaten to freeze. Charrol's managed to bring in Snorlax and pressure the Chansey. Ice Beams have been revealed, but not Thunderbolt. Thunder Wave has, though, so there's a possibility of counter. In comes Golden Gyarados' trademark Golem. You body slam the Exeggutor, switch in and doesn't get the para, and he goes back to his Exeggutor to prevent sleep and pressure this Exeggutor, allowing him also to Stun Spore it. He could potentially explode here. Bringing in Alakazam potentially is obvious. Now Exeggutor is in explosion range, whereas previously I think it may have been a roll. They've been playing pretty quickly. Let's see if we can take a stock of people's advantages so far. Golden Gyarados has revealed everything apart from the last, which is probably a Tauros. He's running Alakazam, Golem, and Lapras, so it's quite a paralysis-focused team with Parafusion abuse from Lapras, standard Chansey, probably standard Egg. He's got Chansey and Exeggutor powered, which allows him to block sleep from the Exeggutor. Charrol doesn't appear to have any other sleepers at the current point. Oof. And that was an interesting turn. Golden Gyarados goes to his Chansey on a Hyper Beam, which allows his Chansey to heal back up and get out of Hyper Beam range. And the threat then is of Explosion, and he doubles back into Exeggutor to take a potential Psychic or Explosion, threaten Explosion. Psychic's hitting the Alakazam that switches in, and it wakes up, but he can fire off another Sleep Powder here if he likes, but I think that's very lucky. If I were Charrol, I'd be tempted to switch out the 6% Alakazam, save it for late game, and prevent sleep using the Exeggutor, since the most threatening thing Golden Gyarados' Exeggutor could otherwise do there was explode. However, he only had about a 9 in 16 chance of hitting a Sleep Powder due to paralysis and accuracy. He Psychics again, gets another special drop, which means that Alakazam is forced to switch out here as it KOs. Alakazam wakes up, but it faints, so it's irrelevant. That puts Golden Gyarados up 6 Pokemon to 5, 25 turns in. Tauros comes in though to guarantee that Exeggutor goes. So essentially, he sacrificed his Alakazam in order to take down Exeggutor, so he's going to be approximately 5 for 5. But given that Golden Gyarados can choose what to go into Tauros with after he loses Exeggutor, unless he goes to Lapras, I think Golden Gyarados still has the advantage of momentum, even though the Tauros is out. Let's Golden Gyarados fire off a Blizzard, which he misses. Okay, and he goes to Chansey, which is the Chansey answer. Snorlax comes in. It's a bit risky, it's just slightly out of Body Slam range. And Golden Gyarados goes to Golem in order to try and take a Hyper Beam and get off some good damage. But it doesn't take much damage, it doesn't get powered, and it allows it to continue to pressure Exeggutor. And go back into Lapras here, threaten to freeze the Chansey, and it critical hits and does an incredible amount of damage. And he fires off another Blizzard for free since Chansey is soft boiling there. He goes Chansey again there, he's going to try and get the soft boiled off. He might or might not be in the range of 2 seismic tosses now, so he needs to avoid full powering there. Alright, so the threat here is now of Explosion and Sleep Powder. So he Ice Beams there, so it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Does he Sleep Powder, or does he Explode? Or he fully paralyzes. Either way, that's arguably the better play, since there was much less chance of Sleep Powder being successful than Explosion. But it is a little bit complex, of course. Alright, so Golden Gyarados gets off a free Body Slam there on the revealed Slowbro, which could be pretty useful here. And then he manages to sack his Exeggutor to the Golem's Explosion, which is pretty phenomenal. And now that Slowbro is left and is clearly a huge threat, given Golden Gyarados' decision to play around it in that way. He goes Chansey to instantly prevent Slowbro from causing issues, but is in versus Snorlax. He decides not to switch out of that Body Slam, which is costing him. He's going to have to try and win Chansey versus Snorlax unless he's willing to go to Lapras or something, which could potentially still cause issues, but that Slowbro looks very threatening, and as does Snorlax, which is very difficult now for Golden Gyarados to handle. No one on his team particularly loves taking it on, and nothing can switch into it now that Golem's out. Lapras doesn't want to be powered at this point, since that makes it vulnerable to Chansey and Slowbro. Chansey reveals Thunderbolt, and it goes down finally. So Snorlax has been chipped a little, but it lets Charrol get off a self-destruct versus the Lapras, which leaves it at 1%. And here it can go Tauros, and he's forced to sack something. And there goes Lapras. Alakazam comes in. Alright, so we're looking at 3-2 now. Alakazam and possibly Tauros versus Tauros, Reflect Chansey, and Alakazam and Slowbro. The Slowbro in particular looks threatening. The Alakazam's now power though, and it should be much easier now to pressure. Chansey's taken 2 special falls already though, so it's not looking in great nick. It could potentially be in a spot of bother, but considering that he has Slowbro to relieve special falls and pressure the Alakazam. Oh, and it goes to Tauros there for some reason. I don't understand why on earth he did that play. Maybe he wanted to avoid paralysis on Slowbro, but that seems a bit peculiar to me. And then he stays in, which is bizarre. I think he's playing as Tauros terribly, but. And then he goes for the Body Slam instead of a Hyper Beam, since Alakazam was quite unlikely to switch out at that point. Psychic fails to 2-hit KO there just, but due to not critical hitting or anything else. And he goes for the Psychic, takes it out. Now we'll see if this is Surf or Psychic Slowbro. It's Surf. So it's Surf Slowbro versus a Tauros, and there's a Chansey in the back which learns Reflect in this case. So looks pretty good for Golden Gyarados. No, for Charrol Astra even. Since Slowbro is very threatening here, but it needs to KO the Tauros as soon as it can, as a critical hit could spell the end for it. And he misses the Hyper Beam after he gets the Body Slam critical hit there. And then he gets another. This is very tight, and I guess the random numbers are really what's deciding this one. He gets another Body Slam critical hit, but he needs to not full paralyze any of the 3 times, which is quite low odds, less than half. But don't have to calculate the hand, so I guess we'll just it's 27 over 64, I think. Something like that. Yeah, 27 over 64. So yeah, it's a little under half, about a third. Okay, and he Body Slam and gets the paralysis. At this point, he might well go for he goes for a Body Slam. Due to Amnesia's effects, though, it was faster. But due to Tauros getting sufficient critical hits, paralysis, etc., Slowbro goes down, but it was definitely in Charrol's favor, I believe. And due to the effects, Chansey now outspeeds here, which is a huge benefit. Tauros needs to critical hit enough before Chansey gets off sufficient seismic tosses. So, bizarrely, it's not all over currently. Let's see what happens. But it is curious, isn't it just? Alright, Tauros is in the range of 2 seismic tosses now. And he fails to KO that turn. He really should have Hyper Beamed, and Charrol nails it by a hair. That was an interesting first battle. Alright. So Charrol Astra 1-0 up. Alright. Well, I guess game 2's on the way soon. I might as well continue where I began at the very start of the video, discussing the background. As I was saying, Golden Gyarados is a veteran, and in comparison, Charrol Astra is very new to Pokemon Perfect, although judging by the interview that we conducted for this week, he has been playing Pokemon for a long time. He's probably most likely in the Italian community from what I gather. But yeah, in terms of who they beat on the way here, Charrol Astra most notably beat Marco ASD, huge tournament veteran on Pokemon Perfect with an incredible record across many seasons, not just tournaments but seasons, and is also a sparring partner and the like for Charrol. He also beat Fat King in the semi-final, who was another newcomer to Pokemon Perfect who had a spectacular run getting that far. I don't remember who Charrol beat in the first round. Oh yeah, it was P. Frimgar actually. They're not terribly experienced. Alright, well, we'll discuss that again between the next games, and we're into game 2. They've already started very quickly. Jinx in Starmie sleeping and waking up versus the Jinx. 2 Pokemon that don't really do much damage to each other, though, but the Psychic there, getting the Special Fall, is very much into Jinx, allowing Snorlax to switch in, but Golden Gyarados goes Chansey aggressively, allowing him to Thunder Wave there, and avoiding critical hits and the self-destruct. That's not a terrible position. Okay, Golden Gyarados' play here is obvious to go Jinx there, and Charrol Astra does not make a smart double. Instead goes in and goes for the Psychic on the Jinx, but Golden Gyarados' Jinx uses Blizzard and critical hits, knocking out the Exeggutor. Doubling in Jinx is the most obvious place for Tauros or Snorlax to come in and fire off an attack, especially since it had already taken damage and therefore was in range of Body Slam at that point. So doubling Tauros in on the Executor might well have been the best play there, allowing him to pressure Golden Gyarados, but instead he lost his Executor. He went in Tauros to get the revenge kill, but then was pressured by this Executor coming in, threatening to use Sunspore or attack it with Psychic, dealing heavy damage that Tauros does not want to take this early on during the match. So we see Chansey come out now to take it on and fires off an Ice Beam. Charrol goes to Starmie, which allows him to scout the Chansey moveset a bit to see if there's Thunderbolt, which there is, as well as trying to get his own Chansey paralyzed. We're now into a Chansey Freeze War, but notably they're both down a Pokemon each, and Charrol Astra's Starmie is asleep and Snorlax is paralyzed. Jinx is much less of a key player, especially with the Executor out. I'd argue it does, and Starmie Sled has done its job. And Charrol decides to go for the paralysis on there, eventually deciding he'd had enough of the Freeze War, and then goes obviously into Snorlax, and Executor's Golem is a very obvious safe switch in to Snorlax, and it was a very smart double by Golden Gyarados, clearly an expert, as we all know. So he goes for the Golem versus Snorlax matchup, with Snorlax being paralyzed, especially making it challenging here. There's no Executor, so unless there's something bizarre like a Moltres or Articuno or Zapdos or Dragonite or something in the remaining unseen slot, which there could very well be, then Golem has an easy time in this matchup. So he Earthquakes again, and it destroys the Snorlax with a critical hit. Lets Chansey come back in, but Golden Gyarados' Chansey answers this safely already, and the worst that can really be done is the Tauros pressure, which we finally see and has been waiting on all match. And he uses that in order to get his own Chansey paralyzed, in which case we have a bit of a Chansey war here. He then fires off an Ice Beam, knocking out the Golem switching, trying to pressure the Chansey there. Rather than facing the Ditto, and then he Ice Beams the Executor, which is frozen, and it feels like Golden Gyarados is being punished this match, even though he is playing better, I'd say. Obviously that's subjective, and Charrol Astra's done a great job getting this far, but just based objectively on how I'm seeing the plays, I feel Golden Gyarados is playing better. Feel free to disagree with me. Okay, and Charrol's sacrificed Starmie sensibly, forcing the Tauros to die. Since Executor is now frozen, there is no threat of sleep. And the last is revealed to be Zapdos, which he bravely switches into the Hyper Beam. Should the Hyper Beam have critical hit, it would have gone down. Presumably it must have been in Thunderbolt range for him to have made that play instead of Thunder Waving there, which would have been potentially safer. And Golden Gyarados reveals his own Zapdos. No Zapdos Ditto isn't something you don't often see. It's not dreadfully uncommon, but it's certainly one of the rarer Dittos. And now going into Chansey here in order to try and remove the Zapdos and force in the Tauros. If Tauros comes in, then Zapdos is in a position to sweep if it can take out the Tauros. Charrol goes for the Hyper Beam, which was a sensible play. If I remember correctly, it was just about in range. It was probably a roll. But Zapdos comes in. Now the Thunder Wave, Thunderbolt, Dropkick, possibly Thunder. What is he going to do? Is he going to possibly try a Mimic? Which is potentially an option, actually. If he does have Mimic, this could be an interesting place to do it if he predicts Chansey to come in. But I think, given that it's more likely... Okay, yeah. Probably would have been better to draw back if Chansey came in anyway. And then he fully paralyzes, and it's a game over for Golden Gyarados due to the freeze on Executor. That's game 2 over. It was definitely Golden Gyarados, who I felt had the edge in that match, but the freeze in particular favoured Charrol, as well as some other bits of I thought that Golden Gyarados made exploitable plays that Charrol didn't really capitalize on until later on in the game, which was interesting to see, learning about how they're playing. Alright, so the next one should be soon. Might as well recap who did Golden Gyarados beat in his run to the final. As a seeded player, I don't think he ended up against so many seeded players. I remember that in the semi-final he fought Extra Realtor, who managed to beat 2 seeded players in Orpheor and Crapper at RBY, but he is a newcomer to Pokemon Perfect Tournament seeds as well. In fact, if I do remember correctly, Golden Gyarados has gone this run not facing a single seeded opponent. Which in some ways is props to the unseeded opponents, the newcomers to Pokemon Perfect, making an incredible impact, which is how it's felt. Alright, the next game is now here. Okay. Jinx versus Jinx here. Charrol Astra 2-0 up. Let's see what Golden Gyarados is bringing. This should be a good match as well. There have been pretty good matches. Golden Gyarados wins the tie, which gives him the advantage here. He can go something here to pressure. I'd probably go Tauros since it's more likely to force out Jinx, and he goes for a Blizzard, and then he wins the speed tie again, which was the sensible play. Now I'd probably go Tauros and pressure. Okay, and Chansey comes in, and it gets a special fall, allowing it to fire off a powerful Blizzard there. Truly monstrous. And is trying to force Chansey to be frozen here, especially since with the special fall as well, it can't deal much damage. Alright, now then, Golden Gyarados' Jinx is paralyzed, and in comes Lapras, which is a particular tool of Charrol's here. It seems which we've not seen yet in this matchup to try and break down Chansey. Chansey goes for a Thunderbolt there, not wanting to paralyze the Chansey but doing it anyway. This is now Jinx is much less threatening. However, he can fire off Psychics, and Charrol reveals Seismic Toss, which means the forces probably reflect, but there's a small chance of Sing, which as I said I like, but not many other people have run it as far as I'm aware. Lapras goes for the Body Slam. Jinx does not reveal what its fourth move is, and it counters! Slam, bam, dunk. Some incredible damage right there. Alright, no point really in keeping Jinx around at that point, especially since it has counter, and it's not very threatening to paralyzed opponents, so it's best to sacrifice and then use the gained momentum to your advantage. So it goes into Chansey. We now have Chansey versus Chansey. However, Reflect is revealed. We know that Charrol has the PP advantage here. So the question is how is Golden Gyarados going to pressure this Chansey? Chansey is likely to heal at that point, so Golden Gyarados might double as he does. Let's see what Snorlax says it is. We rarely see Golden Gyarados running Snorlax. Yeah, I think is of note. He always runs a Golem, it seems, but it's very rare that he brings out a Snorlax actually, which is a peculiar trait of a top playing Gen 1 player, but nevertheless, he uses that to try and pressure, and or at least gain a PP advantage. And he Thunderbolts again there, expecting a Thunder Wave, perhaps. Interesting but quite subtle mind games go on here, I find, between the two players. It's kind of difficult to know if the other side is even really suspecting of much. Tried to gain an advantage here. But it's really, at this point, it's about whether Charrol wants to play for the pure PP advantage, which could be quite effective, or if he wants to pressure the Chansey. We'll see, but this is likely to go on for a little bit, so until stuff starts sort of going on again post the Chansey Ditto, which is what seems to be happening. Give me a moment to blow my nose. No, I'm not feeling the best. I only slept 4 hours last night as well, which didn't exactly help. Anyway, I don't know what else though really I have to say about each player. Perhaps you could hypothesize a bit on what the remaining Pokemon are and comment true on their teams. In terms of the big four, Charrol has room for an Exeggutor and for a Tauros, which is the most likely things, but that team would look quite Zapdos vulnerable to me, but then again he has Reflect Chansey, which is arguably a decent check towards it. Just my experience, when you stack Ice types for some reason, it makes the team Zapdos weaker in the late game. What we expect from Golden Gyarados is probably Golem, Exeggutor, Tauros, but there is the potential for other sets and other Pokemon. I mean, we don't know anything about the Snorlax set yet, although he's playing it as a threat as if it were a Fishlax. We'll have to see what it really is later on in the match. And in terms of PP, how are we doing? Charrol's still got there was a softball PP. They're still both doing fine. Yeah, it'll take a bit longer before we really start seeing the effect, I think, as well as the full process adding in a lot of variance to this, and the odd Snorlax switch trying to gain a little bit. And the question is, at some point, will Chansey, will Snorlax attack or not? And the question is, what PP will they be saving? Since softball PP is obviously very necessary, and Reflect and Thunder Wave PP are obviously much more expendable. There's a question of how much are they willing to sacrifice in terms of their other PP. Okay, now Snorlax is paralyzed, and Golden Gyarados is starting to go for the pressure. Let's see if that works out, because it very well may. And look at the Chansey down to 37%, and it's shocking. That Chansey is getting truly brutalized here. But it manages to get a swift boiled off. As it is, those can potentially stall out the swift boils, but there's still 5 remaining. And with enough full paralyses, Chansey might be forced not to be able to get off its attacks, of which it will have to get off many to KO Snorlax. It has a whopping 523 base HP. No, 523 HP. So it survives 5 seismic tosses. And it reveals Rest Snorlax. So Rest and Body Slam revealed. So the question is what is the other moves? Is it Reflect and Earthquake, which would be most typical, or Reflect and another move such as Self-Destruct, which Marco's quite fond of as of late, or Hyper Beam, which I've been known to run a bit, or is it Reflect and Ice Beam even, which is an anti-Snorlax, or possibly Amnesia plus Ice Beam or Blizzard, all of which are interesting potential options. If there is an Ice Beam or Blizzard, that's where it would perhaps be revealed, and he goes to Chansey to take the Explosion, which is curious, revealing perhaps the absence of a Golem, although there was the threat of sleep, so perhaps he was trying to prevent sleep at that point, which would have been obvious. And he goes for a Reflect, so now we only don't know what the fourth is. Most likely Earthquake, but Ice Beam is possible, although if there was Ice Beam, it probably would have been revealed as of now. If it were Ice Beam or whatever, anyway. So the last is probably either Self-Destruct or Earthquake. And he goes into Tauros to try and pressure his last possible attempt, and gets critical hit. If that hadn't happened, it would have looked very much a dominating position for Golden Gyarados right there. As it is, it may still be worth keeping or not, depending on how much he can pressure here. Psychics, Jinx switching in was obvious there, and he has to hope for Jinx not to wake up, which he has succeeded in getting. Trying to lure the Explosion now, but he can fire off Psychics as he wishes. Very threatening here. We'll see though if Charrol can absorb the explosion at the right time, and if he does, if that's even enough for him to win the match. It's not a comfortable matchup, but he just gets half of Executor's HP down just like that and goes into Jinx. And he manages to just about safely KO the Jinx there. He can now explode for free, arguably, and I argue that perhaps doing Tauros is the wrong play there. And now it is Tauros against the world. Golden Gyarados most likely has Tauros and possibly another Pokemon. We shall see what they are, shan't we? And he reveals a Starmie, which is monstrous in this position. And we may get to see what the fourth is. He probably just wants to deal damage at this point with it. It's Thunderbolt, Blizzard, Recover. Since if it had any other moves, it would be using them, unless it's carrying Happy, which would be very strange. And Tauros safely wins here, since it's in Body Slam range. And unless he 255s, doesn't feel paralyzed, hits Hyper Beam and critical hits, then the game is on Gyarados'. There we go. Okay, 2-1 now. And it looks like Golden Gyarados is potentially mounting a comeback here. He still needs to win 2 games to win it all, but if he wins one more of the matches, then it is totally even, making it highly exciting. The proper way to end one of these tournaments is up against the wall like that. Maybe I should curiously ask, what was the fourth move that Golden Gyarados is running there? I mean, what was... Oh wait, no, the fourth... No, we saw this as Pokemon. What am I thinking? I mean, I don't know. Don't worry about it. Alright. Alrighty. And we're on to Game 4. Jinx versus Alakazam. Two leads, I think, both are quite fond of judging from what we've seen so far. And he goes Tauros to pressure him, but Alakazam wakes up. He goes Chansey to take the seismic toss, trying to lure a Thunder Wave or work out what is Charrol's Chansey switching this early on in the match if he doesn't want to paralyze it. And it's his own Chansey, which is an okay play, I guess. It's interesting though. Lots of people watching these finals now. It's good, like 6 different people watching so far. Okay, I guess it's not as grand as various other tournaments, perhaps, but it is good fun. Alright, and Slowbro is revealed on Charrol's side again, which seems to be a trusted little Pokemon for him. And critical hits a Body Slam versus the Chansey. Oh, good God. He's forced us off-world there just to try and survive, and he manages to do so safely. But Chansey versus Snorlax is always an uncomfortable position, I feel. Snorlax has the advantage of stalling out a soft-boiled PP with his Body Slam, has the potential to critical hit, and Chansey doesn't KO stuff very quickly. But I guess he's looking to have it fully healed, and he critical hits, and it gets a much higher roll than the previous one, putting Chansey down back to 13%. An incredible attack there. And he Hyper Beams, nailing the Chansey, working out Golden Gyarados' way of play there, revealing that he's probably not got counter though. It goes Jinx there with Blizzards, and the Snorlax survives. Hyper Beam misses, but then the Blizzard missed before, and then another one misses. And it's crazy. It's Gen 1, isn't it? It's a crazy game today, especially. It self-destructs, knocking out the Executor almost. With a Chansey here, the momentum can be his. But does Golden Gyarados have anything to switch into this? And given how sleep is valuable, but he's already gotten it, it definitely seems a reasonable enough trade there. Snorlax comes in. It's revealed to be Reflect, and now Charrol Astra can get Sleep, which is a dreadful position for Golden Gyarados. He's at the edge of his wits, and it's the same team as was used in the previous game, possibly with different sets, as we see the same 6 Pokemon on our screen, which is a slightly rare occurrence these days than it used to be back in the day. Back in the day, like last year. And Snorlax wakes up. Starmie comes in to prevent Exeggutor causing carnage. Probably will anyway. See what happens though. There's 5-3 up for Charrol Astra, but I think Golden Gyarados still has the tools to very much be in this, and this is a very interesting match. Galakazam is effectively not a Pokemon though at this point, unless it manages to wake up. It isn't doing anything important in maintaining sleep levels at this point. Just know that Golden Gyarados is remaining from me to learn sleep moves. Alright, and he body slams. Trying to get paralysis on the Exeggutor. Trying to prevent the sleep powder. This is tight, isn't it? This is close shit. Good shit right here. See what happens here. What's the Chansey at? Chansey is at full Blizzard reveal. All 4 moves are revealed. And he stays in and it's uncomfortable. But I think he was having to make plays at that point, since Charrol Astra could otherwise play very predictably and guarantee the win if he did not. But he goes for that too early, or too late, or who knows. But it was a terrible position. So Charrol Astra finally definitely has the advantage this match, but it seems in other matches the player with the advantage is not necessarily the one who wins even 40 turns in. See what happens. And a critical hit. And Starmie is out. Let's see. Alakazam goes. Time for Exeggutor to try and get sleep. And Golden Gyarados needs some serious luck here to get back in. See what happens. Body slam paralysis would be magical at this point, as well as a sleep powder miss. And remember, it's actually not as heavily in the Exeggutor's favour as you might otherwise think, since due to the 1 in 7 chance of waking up after a sleep powder, there's slightly less favourable for sleep powder than it would otherwise have been. But I think that's game unless Tauros can do it. But there's a Tauros and a Slowbro left. Anti-Explosion 255s. Crazy. The incredible stuff that keeps a tournament game going. When there's a Tauros, there's a way. Good lord. I think the Pokemon gods really want Game 5. Let's see if Tauros can do it. He's on a charge. But now the Tauros is in Hyper Beam range, as is that Chansey, so he needs to hit the Hyper Beam and for Charles to miss. It looks unlikely. Alright, well, 3-1. Charrol Astra is victorious. That was an exciting series there that we had. Alright, well I think that concludes it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching and come back for the next final. And if you want to play, I'm sure I can put the link in the description. I hope you enjoyed, and see you next time.